I would just like to remark, even though this is maybe a simple or elementary observation, but I think it's worth pointing out anyway, because sometimes we miss the most obvious things, or we skip over them. And it's important to know what we're talking about before, so we can build on it from there. So what I'm wanting to just describe right now is what I think is going on right now, generally speaking, in our society, among the higher echelon, what they're pushing for, what we see more and more of, this strange dynamic where we see less and less of truth in mainstream news and more just overt propaganda. It didn't always there's always been propaganda. There's always been stories that the news wouldn't touch. There's always been dishonesty amongst journalists and media venues and so forth. And there's always been complicity, media complicity in state atrocities, or or in state or corporate run programs that are malignant and should be called out, but aren't called out because the media is bought out by them. That's really nothing new, but what we see going on right now is that it's really gone in overdrive to the point where if you're a discerning person, you absolutely can't believe anything anymore that you see coming from any mainstream news source. You can't believe anything. Everything is a lie. And it's so obviously and transparently a lie. And there's a quote from Alexander Solzhenitsyn that I don't remember verbatim, but I'm going to summarize here. It's something to the effect of they're lying. We know that they're lying. They know that we know that they're lying, but yet they continue to lie. That's really, I think, the most egregious thing about their dishonesty is not so much the fact that they're dishonest, although that's of course bad enough as it is, but the fact that they're brazen and shameless about it, and that they know that they have absolutely no credibility, but they keep acting like they do. They know that everyone with discerning eyes can see that the emperor is wearing no clothes, in that famous fable or parable, but they're still saying, no, what are you talking about? Of course he's wearing clothes. You're crazy. You don't think he's wearing any clothes? You're crazy. That's what they're that's what they're doing. Meanwhile, the emperor is naked, in front of our eyes. So I don't know what exactly is behind it all. I'm not claiming to know everything that's making this all go into overdrive right now, but it's sort of it's a dynamism that works. One feeds the other. When there is a greater degree of overt dishonesty, then there is also correspondingly a greater degree of overt censorship and what's today called deplatforming. It wasn't always this overt. There have been third rails that you don't touch, or that you just skate around. There's been touchy subjects, that's always been there, and or has been the case for a while, maybe forever. I mean, there are always sacred cows that you're not supposed to address, but it seems that lately, in the last 4 or 5 years, especially, and really especially in the last year or so, that this whole we've seen graduated degrees of skullduggery and dishonesty amongst the what do we call them, the commercial class, the managerial class, the ruling class, and their minions in wherever, in corporations, in government, in all the institutions where they are stationed, where they have saturated these institutions with themselves and their minions. We've seen them launch into overdrive, really pushing all kinds of things that are obviously absurd, that manifestly cannot be believed. And then at the same time, because they're so obviously absurd, and it just like the with the Emperor's New Clothes, it's so obvious that the Emperor's not wearing any clothes. Then they have to step up they have to bring the hammer down on anyone who's seeing the obvious truth, or not even seeing it, because everybody with eyes to see can see it, but those with the temerity to talk about what they can see with their eyes. These types of people, yours truly included in some small way. I'm not claiming to be, never have claimed to be any kind of big fish. I'm a very, very small fish, but I do think there's a dossier on me somewhere, maybe several, and so even somebody like me, who's not who's very far from being powerful or influential, even somebody like me gets taken out, driven out from this platform, that platform, including right here where you're seeing me right now on YouTube. I used to have a much larger channel. This is my backup channel, which became my regular channel after YouTube in quick succession nuked my regular channel for horseshit reasons. I won't go back into it again. I'm over it. I'm not angry about it anymore, but I'm just aware of what it was. And in its own small way, it's an echo of what they're doing in other places, to other people who are much more well-known, who are much more influential than me. But whether conspicuous or inconspicuous, whether well-known or barely known, those who have the temerity to say that the Emperor is naked when he really is brazenly naked right now. Maybe before he was kind of hidden behind a tree or something, and you could basically tell he was probably naked, but you could also plausibly say, no, that looks like a shirt on him. That's that thing that's probably the branch of the tree that he's standing behind. That might be a garment that he's wearing. So let's just say that that's the garment that he's wearing. Now he stepped out from behind the tree, and his nakedness is right there in front of our eyes. And by the way, he's a eunuch. The emperor is not only naked, but he's castrated, and they want us to castrate our eyes. This whole metaphor is just coming to me, and it's a little clunky, I know. They want us to castrate our senses. They want us to not speak about what's plainly before ourselves when we look at what we're seeing. And that's why, again, these two things are happening that feed into one another. A stepped up level of deceit and misinformation and flat out dishonesty, and a plainly rigged system, an election that was rigged so obviously that none could really deny it. Just to take one example, a pandemic, a so-called pandemic, that's supposed to be so deadly that we all have to do all these things that disrupt our lives, and yet barely, the needle has barely moved, if at all, as far as the overall death rate for the year 2020. There's just been, more diagnoses of this new thing that they're saying people are dying from, and so forth. You could come up with a list of more and more things. Biology being denied. They're telling us that men are women and women are men, whereas it's obvious that men continue to be men and women continue to be women, even if they're eunuched, even if they're castrated, as the naked emperor before our eyes is. Biology is still a fact. So these aren't, these are issues in which the conventional wisdom, what's become conventional wisdom, is so shamelessly mendacious about that for whatever reason they've stepped up the mendacity, and when you have to emphasize these things that are plainly lies, then you also have to concomitantly step up the war on those who notice the lies. So that's what's going on right now. Why is it going on right now? Other people might have it all worked out. I don't claim to know totally. I have ideas, but I don't know for sure. And I think it's okay to not know for sure. You don't have to know everything. That's one of those. That's another kind of dishonest, mendacious approach that some take towards dissidents. They say, "Oh well, okay, smart guy, if you know everything, then why are they doing this?" And it's sort of like, well, if you don't believe the official story of this event or that event, what do you think actually happened? No, I don't have to say what actually happened. I don't have to know necessarily what actually happened, but I do, I do notice these gaping holes in the official story. If you're going to uphold the official story, you have to account for those gaping holes. This was something that I heard. I should give credit for whoever who I heard this from, but it's lost in the mists of time right now. But that's basically it. You can notice that things are wrong, but that doesn't mean that you have to be able to make an account for everything. If you have an open mind, if you have a truly, if you're somebody with who hungers and thirsts for truth and for righteousness, you're going to keep questing. You're going to keep looking into things. You're going to keep asking these kinds of questions. But you don't have to know everything to know that these lies, these obvious lies, are obvious lies. So, there you go. Let me know what you think. AndyNowicki, altrightnovelist.com.